Breaking news: Supreme Court's December pistol ruling has just sent shockwaves through all 50 states, and nothing about America's gun laws looks the same after today. This wasn't supposed to happen now. December rulings almost never drop without advance notice, and when they do, it usually means one thing: something urgent, something seismic, something that demands immediate national attention. And that is exactly what just happened. Every state, red, blue, purple, every state in the nation has been hit by this ruling. Whether you live in the mountains of Idaho, the suburbs of Texas, the cities of California, or the small towns of New England, this decision is landing in your backyard right now. And legal experts across the country are already calling this one of the biggest shifts in firearm policy since the Bruin ruling, maybe even bigger. What the Supreme Court just handed down doesn't just adjust gun laws. It shakes the entire foundation under them. The December pistol ruling didn't just reinterpret a minor statute. It didn't just refine a narrow legal issue. It struck at the heart of how pistols are classified, regulated, and restricted across the entire United States, and it did so with a force nobody expected. The court clarified what counts as a lawful pistol, what cannot be regulated under modern interpretations of the Second Amendment, and exactly which types of restrictions violate the Constitution outright. The court dismantled the state-level framework that many lawmakers had relied on for years, declaring that historical tradition, not modern preferences, must decide the limits of government power. And because the ruling touches pistol classifications, potential registration requirements, transportation rules, purchasing restrictions, and even how states justify safety measures, this single decision, handed down in December without warning, is already being described as a legal earthquake. The case reached the court after months of legal battles in lower courts, battles that states believed were moving slowly. But the Supreme Court stepped in, cut through the arguments, and dropped a ruling that directly rewrites how pistols can be restricted nationwide. And that is why every single state is feeling this ruling instantly. This isn't a decision limited to the state that brought the lawsuit. This is national. The court didn't just answer a local question. It set a federal standard, and that means every state with pistol regulations, including the strictest jurisdictions in the country, must now re-examine and in many cases rewrite their laws. California, New York, New Jersey, Hawaii, Maryland, Washington, all the states that relied on broad discretionary authority to regulate pistols are now facing massive legal problems. Their frameworks for registration, transportation permits, micro-rules surrounding pistol features, and even how they approve or deny purchases can no longer lean on the excuses they've used for years. The court made it clear. The Second Amendment does not bend to the preferences of individual states. The Constitution is the Constitution everywhere. And for some states, this ruling hit like a hammer. Overnight, legal teams were pulled into emergency meetings. Some states are already acknowledging they may have to pause enforcement of certain rules. Others are doubling down, trying to figure out if they can resist. But it doesn't matter, the ruling is federal. The legal standard is national. And the message is unmistakable. Pistol restrictions across all 50 states have been thrown into a storm. What this does to existing gun laws is something we haven't seen in decades. Laws that states thought were untouchable suddenly look vulnerable. Age restrictions that pushed beyond what history supports are now being questioned. Permit systems that added unnecessary layers or bureaucratic hoops are now on shaky ground. Magazine limitations connected to pistols, especially in states where lawmakers tried to connect the two, are now being pulled apart for historical legitimacy. Transportation and storage mandates that created felony risk for ordinary citizens now face major legal tests. And pistol classification rules, especially those designed to turn otherwise legal firearms into heavily restricted or even prohibited items, have been directly smacked by the court's logic. This ruling opens the door for lawsuits in at least 20 states, many of which now understand that the legal foundation they built their entire gun control strategy on has cracks so deep they can't be patched. And the biggest message of all, states no longer get to interpret around the Supreme Court. They can't dodge Bruin. They can't twist history. They can't fabricate evidence. The court is drawing a line, and the states that cross it are going to lose in court. That is why legal analysts are calling this a massive gun law shift. The December ruling doesn't just reinforce Bruin, it expands it. It tells lower courts exactly how to evaluate restrictions, closing loopholes that some jurisdictions were using to push their policies forward. The days of interest balancing are gone. The days of "we think this is safer so we're doing it anyway" are over. The ruling forces lower courts to follow a stricter historical test, one that doesn't allow creative interpretations or modern-era policy experiment. Anti-gun states now have far less room to justify sweeping restrictions, and that means the modern regulatory framework around pistols could be fundamentally redefined for decades. The ruling acknowledges that pistols were widely owned historically, widely used, and widely protected, and that modern lawmakers can't just rewrite that history to suit their preferences. The decision rewrites decades of assumptions about what the government can restrict, what it must justify, and what it has absolutely no authority to touch. This isn't just a shift, it's a transformation. And the states are reacting exactly how you'd expect. Some governors are furious. Some attorneys general are scrambling. Some are issuing statements hinting at resistance, claiming they will explore options or continue fighting. Others are reluctantly acknowledging that they'll have to comply, at least temporarily. In states with the most intense pistol regulations, officials are meeting with legal teams right now, trying to figure out whether enforcement of certain laws must be paused to avoid immediate lawsuit. Meanwhile, gun rights organizations are preparing filings at lightning speed. Lawsuits that were previously stalled or slow-walking through the courts are now gaining momentum. Some cases that were dismissed in lower courts will be revived. Some that were waiting for rulings will jump ahead. And in states like California and New Jersey, where complicated overlapping pistol restrictions created layers of confusion for citizens, this ruling is causing immediate chaos. Agencies are unsure how to apply rules. Sheriffs are unsure which laws remain enforceable. Legislatures are waking up to a legal storm. The battlefield is shifting in real time, and the Supreme Court just lit the fuse. So what comes next? A wave. A flood. A cascade of legal challenges across the country. Attorneys general will hold press conferences. Governors will issue statements of outrage or resignation. The DOJ and ATF may be forced to update guidance, especially if their own enforcement policies intersect with the reasoning in this ruling. And make no mistake, this decision could trigger legal challenges to magazine laws, transportation requirements, safe storage mandates, licensing rules, pistol purchase waiting periods, and even some concealed carry restrictions. Federal courts are about to be hit with a tsunami of cases that rely on the December ruling's logic. And this is only the beginning. As one constitutional lawyer put it earlier today, this ruling is the first spark. The fire hasn't started yet. More explosive decisions could follow, and every gun owner in America is going to feel the impact. Because here's the bottom line: a Supreme Court pistol ruling that affects all 50 states is not normal. It's not common. It's not routine. This is a turning point. This is a nationwide reset. This is the moment where the Supreme Court told state governments, the DOJ, the ATF, and every lower court in America that the Second Amendment means what it says, and that the Constitution will not be rewritten through regulations, reinterpretations, or political pressure. Whether you support firearms or not, whether you live in a state with strict laws or a state with almost none, this ruling rewrites the landscape. It touches the rights of millions of Americans. It forces governments to obey historical standards. And it signals that the Supreme Court is not backing down, not now, not in December, not ever, when it comes to the Second Amendment. So as we watch this ruling send shockwaves across the nation, the biggest question becomes, what gun laws in your state will change because of this? Which restrictions will fall next? Which ones will survive the new legal test? And how long will this fight continue? Stay alert because the legal battle over the Second Amendment isn't slowing down. In fact, after this December ruling, it just accelerated faster than anyone expected. The next few months could reshape the national conversation entirely. And we'll be right here, covering every twist, every fight, and every historic moment as America's gun laws enter a new era.